It's been a great year for Ripple as a company, but what about XRP? We'll talk about it because December is hopefully not Moonvember. We're also going to talk about Saylor and Strategy. Will they have to sell in order to keep the lights on? Who's going to be replacing Jerome Powell? And did you make any money in this last year buying the BTC ETF?
I say lots of naughty things, so here's your warning.
That's right. Jerome Powell should be done in May, and who's going to replace him? Well, hopefully someone who does a better frickin' job. Happy Sunday to you crypto fans as... well, volume sucks this Sunday. That's okay. We've got football, and we also had a Thanksgiving holiday, so we understand. Now, before we get into the news, you know the deal. You are a viewer, and you matter most. What do I do then? I share your comments at the beginning of the videos. Shane Wilkins, dropping support on the channel. Thank you, Shane. Says, thanks, brother. Happy Saturday and Sunday to you. It's the weekend. Jordan Lunning says, nice. A thumbs up for your brother. From up here in Kelloland. Ooh, Kelloland. If you know what Kelloland is, then you've lived in some very cold and windy places with some of the best hunting in the world. R. Schmidt, channel member, thank you. R. Schmidt says, silver inverse performance to Bitcoin. Let's look at it. Over the last year, I've got BTC in blue right here, and I've got silver in the green. BTC down almost 5%, while silver is up 3%. Juicy. So silver outperforming gold for the year. Silver outperforming BTC for the year. But if you invested $100 at BlackRock's BTC ETF at launch, you would have how much? Well, and this is what big players are looking at right now. You got to think. The ETFs are all about traditional money, right? People that are too afraid to buy native token. They don't want to buy XRP directly. They don't want to gobble up ETH. They don't want to take a risk on HBAR like this guy behind the mic and the cam. They just want the things regulated by the SEC. BlackRock's iShares BTC ETF IBIT has delivered remarkable gains since its debut, outpacing most traditional assets. Oh, indeed, IBIT's returns have soared despite persistent turbulence in the market. At the close of the last session, IBIT was $51, reflecting a 106% gain from its launch price. This means that the ETF has more than doubled since hitting the market in early 2024. And that's what big players are looking at. They're going, well, wait a minute. I could park my money in something boring like a BTC ETF and just got to wait a couple years and I'll double my money. Would you wait a couple years to double your money on something boring? But now what the big question is that traders are asking themselves, will this trend continue? Oh, you're like, bro, you didn't do the heat map. There you go. Bitcoin 91,714, ETH is 3,044, XRP $2.20. Look at ETH is starting to move. BNB's kind of meh. We're going to talk about some price action in ADA 42 cents. Altcoin season, who really gives a shit when prices are this low? Volume is low at $85 billion. There you go. I caught every one of them. All right. Strategy will sell Bitcoin as last resort. If the MNAV drops, capital is unavailable. Now, the CEO, no, that is not Michael Saylor. Remember, he was ousted of that role and he's been replaced. Strategy CEO Fong Li says Bitcoin would only be sold if the company's stock falls below net asset value and funding options disappear, calling it financial decision. It would be a last resort. He says, however, I would not want the company to be the company that sells Bitcoin, because think, if Strategy sells Bitcoin and all they've ever talked about is hodl, sell your car, sell your kids, sell your wife, hodl, take selfies of your dong and feet content, and use it to buy BTC. Like, that's all Saylor's been about. So now if all of a sudden Strategy starts having to sell to keep the lights on, that would really shock the shit out of the market, wouldn't it? Now, Michael Saylor posted this. What if we started adding green dots? Whoa. Does green dot mean hodling? Does green dot mean selling BTC for cash? Does green dot mean buying some BTC ETFs? Dude, is Strategy starting to pivot from just BTC only? It's what Saylor posted, just throwing it out there. Now, Trump considers Kevin Hasset for the next Fed chair role amid the rate cut push. We've seen Hasset before. We have. We've brought him up on this channel. We've talked about stuff he said plenty of times. Trump's preferred choice for the next Federal Reserve chair appears to be Kevin Hasset. Now, remember, Jerome Powell is slated to be done in May 2026. That's when his term would be over. Hasset currently is directing the National Economic Council, emphasizes Fed independence while pushing for aggressive rate cuts. Oh, I see. Now, if that were to happen, that would be bullish for us because that would mean this man would try to undo the mess that Jerome Powell did. Kevin Hasset has voiced strong criticism of Federal Reserve's handling of inflation during the pandemic, describing it as transitory misjudgment. That's right, the Fed said that inflation was transitory. Here we are, 4 or 5 years later, still dealing with this shit? Hasset supports a 50 basis point rate cut next month and opposes any pause due to uncertainties like government shutdown. Right now, our expectations from the Fed are that we're going to get a quarter cut. How much of a percent chance? 86% chance that we're going to get a quarter cut. You go to the January meeting, 23% chance that we're going to get another cut on top of that. So not as bullish in the January run. So Hasset's basically saying, look, you put me in, baby, I'm going to start cutting. And we need that in crypto because it's expensive, because it's risky, and this would help with that. Ripple's best year ever, so why is XRP still down here today? Because XRP doesn't track what Ripple does. What Ripple does is good for Ripple as a company. What XRP does is what the speculative market, this blob right here, thinks about it. Perhaps the most anticipated and important news for Ripple this year, and this is where you have to start thinking about XRP price. Did any of this stuff really help out XRP price? Was in March when CEO Brad Garlinghouse announced the official end of the legal battle with the SEC. Okay, that gave us the slightest little pumperoni ever. And everyone's like, oh, bro, XRP is going to go to $10 when the SEC thing ends. No. Although it took a few more months and some hurdles for the case to go down in history books, it was categorized as a win for Ripple. They didn't have to pay the $2 billion. They just had to pay, $125 million? Then, the company opened the door for some bigger moves. Just a month after Garlinghouse's triumphant statement against the SEC, Ripple then got Hidden Road for $1.25 billion. Oh, they called it then Ripple Prime. Reports also emerged that the firm led an effort to raise at least $1 billion through a SPAC to create a digital asset treasury company. We know about that one. Evernorth, right? And the other big purchase was Rail for $200 million. So they had all this stuff. But see, XRP hasn't had that. XRP doesn't track what Ripple does. And it was, at least until this point, the cross-border token matched its 2018 all-time high in January 2025, dumping hard in the following months, but skyrocketing again in July to break a new one at 365. So you had XRP all over the place for the last year. In fact, you go to the one-year chart for XRP and it's only gained 18% for the year. So now traders are looking at this going, whoa, silver's boring as shit, gained 83% for the year. XRP and other altcoins out there are risky as shit, and it only gained 18.95% for the year. That's a lot of risk for very little gains. And what we're going to be looking at here real soon, like in the next couple of days, is being in the red for the year. The price for XRP on December 1st. Okay, I'm recording this video on November 30th. And some of you watching out there are like, but bro, I'm watching this on December 1st. Well, you either live in a way the forward time zone than me, or you're being a naughty person and not watching the videos right away. That's on you. I wake up early on Sundays. I don't watch my Saturday and Sunday morning cartoons. I do drink my Guade iced coffee, and I bring you the news. That's my job. I bring you the news every day of the week, 7 days of the week. So now in a day, XRP is going to be red for the 1 year chart. Think about that. What does that mean? Players are going to be looking at 1 year charts and they're going to be going, okay, over this last year, what would I have been smart to do? And they're going to be like, oh shit, I would have been in the red for XRP. XRP at $2.32 a year ago. Now we're at $2.20. Volume for XRP down 44% to under 2 billion and 1.9 billion. So you could even tell during the weekend, all the activity dried up, but we know why. Because traditional markets were off because of Thanksgiving, and a lot of players in traditional finance decided not to hang out. And a lot of traditional finance money and a lot of traditional finance trends have spilled over into crypto. So yes, it's been a great year for Ripple. They've been buying a whole bunch. So they don't have to worry about the SEC anymore. But remember, XRP was told that they were going to be included in the strategic asset from the United States government. We haven't seen shit from that. We haven't seen XRP used as a big payment thing. They've been using RLUSD for everything. We did get some juicy pumperonis during crypto week when regs were flaunted in front of us. Again, we didn't get regs either, did we? No, we didn't. So my thinking is that you're going to have another massive run-up for XRP once we start dealing more with regs. Once we know that regs are probably going to happen. Otherwise, it's going to be a little dry. Now, does that provide you with buying opportunities? No, I don't think 220 is a buying opportunity. Come on now. Go to the 1-year chart. Here's 220 right here. There's a ton of time you were able to buy under 220. Even recently, we were able to buy under 220. A week ago, we were buying $2 XRP. More than a week ago, like 2 weeks ago, we were buying sub $2 XRP. So yes, good for Ripple, not so good for XRP. You play in the pumps and dumps, you're doing really freaking good. Because ever since we had that big price action in July, XRP's highs have been getting lower along the way. So are we getting ready for another crypto week, another reg price explosion for XRP? Well, it sure helped. Could you imagine the fear and panic that would just engulf the entire crypto market if Strategy, Saylor, and Lee all decided, yo, we gotta sell to keep the lights on? Yeah. So if cash flow dries up, that's when these players in trouble. And that's what I've been trying to tell you. Have the cash flow so that when sales happen, you could be the person that buys. Have the cash flow so that you're not forced to liquidate things that you wish you could hold on to for longer. See, Strategy is going to be facing that problem because they keep leveraging future debts in order to buy BTC now. But if BTC doesn't keep its performance going, well, then they're going to have to dump that BTC to keep the lights on. And this is coming from a company and a person that said, yo, sell your kids, buy BTC. You don't need 2 kidneys. You only need 1. Sell it for BTC. You don't need 2 eyeballs. You could still see with 1. Sell it for BTC. And now these players out here are like, yo, maybe we should start buying green dots. Unless the Sailor Man is talking about partying back in the day. I don't know if he's talking about the same green dots as I'm talking about. But Strategy might be pivoting. And a lot of players out there are looking at these historical charts. The 1-year chart, they're looking at IBIT going, okay, well, wait a minute. BTC ETF, juicy gains over the last 2 years. Not as juicy as they were there in January when things were really pumping, right? XRP, other crypto assets have juicy pumps, but then they dump because we didn't get the regs as we were promised. And remember, that's been the 2 biggest events that have pumped up crypto. It's been the election of a pro-crypto president and pro-crypto Senate and House, right? That happened all the way back in November of last year, a year ago more than, right? And Crypto Week. So if we get subcommittee votes in December, that could give us some juice. If they then are able to do the full crypto vote in January, February, maybe that brings us back to above 3 for XRP, above 20 for HBAR, and above 100,000 BTC. Well, we're going to have to find out. So December, hopefully we get the rate cut. We ain't getting the 50 like Hasset wants, and maybe he's going to replace Jerome. But maybe, just maybe, we get a rate cut. Maybe we get the subcommittee vote, and we start having a juicy December. Because Moonvember, October, those were shitty names, and they were cringe AF. December is just December. It's my month. Santa Claus's month. So choo-choo what? Choo-choo hopefully great prices. Choo-choo Jerome Powell getting the fuck out of the Fed, and let's replace him with someone who can actually do a good job. And, as the sign says behind me, choo-choo bitches.